Welcome, everybody. I think I'm on, right? Yeah. My name is Andy. It's not Ikaya. For those of you who may be new tonight, I work as operations manager here at IKYA Center in Oslo. We have lots of people online as well, so hello to everybody all over the world. We're super excited to have you guys with us tonight. It's an informal evening with Enlightened Master and spiritual teacher Ikaya. We have these open houses before all of our big courses to give you an opportunity to meet the teacher, to meet the kind of the source of the teachings behind the courses. It's important to kind of know what you're going into if you're going to join a 1-year course with 10 different mantras. So it's an exciting evening, but let's be relaxed, just feel at home. We're really happy to have you with us, and a big welcome again to all of you. A little bit about Ikaya for those who are new. Not everybody is necessarily familiar with Ikaya. Ikaya is consciousness in form. And as a teacher, he brings the principles of nature directly to us for our own exploration and our spiritual study. What does that really mean, though? The way I relate to it is that what Ikaya teaches, what he presents, is a principle of nature. It's kind of the physics of life. So one of my favorite example principles that I like to work with is he says something, and I never try to quote Ikaya myself because whatever comes out of my mouth is going to be filtered by my own consciousness, by my own understanding. So I'll say that my best understanding of one of the principles that he teaches is that if you want 100% freedom in your life, you have to take 100% responsibility for absolutely everything. Now, as a starting point, those are just words. What do they actually mean? And that's kind of the nature of studying with Ikaya, is it's about you and me exploring what those words mean. So we just take the principle as Ikaya presents it, and then we have to take it inside ourselves. We have to reflect, think, and then go out in life and see if we can't practice what he says is a truth about life. And it's for us to then discover whether that's true or not. We have to verify everything. And to me, that's maybe one of the most fundamental differences about studying with Ikaya as a spiritual teacher versus any other spiritual teacher on the planet that I know of. And that is that he only presents the principle, and it's up to us to take that principle, to integrate it, to reflect on it, to live it out, to test it, and to find out about truth ourselves. We're never, ever to accept what he says as true. And most importantly, we're never to believe anything that he says. Because belief is actually a way in which we block ourselves from discovering truth for ourselves. So I think that in a way, that's a really vital difference between studying with Ikaya as a teacher and, again, even any teacher we have at normal school or university. You know, we're supposed to kind of take what a teacher gives us and believe it and take it as given and kind of build our understanding of the world based on that. But when you work with Ikaya, my understanding at least is that it's the exact opposite. In a way, we're supposed to take whatever he gives us and tear it apart, look at it down to its smallest pieces, and then build it back up again for ourselves. So in a course like IKYA Mantras Collection 4, which this evening is about, it's an opportunity to take a principle of nature that is represented in a sound that he's going to present as a mantra. And then he presents a teaching behind that vibration. And all of that, our job is to tear it apart, really look at it from every angle, and build it up for ourselves again. And in that process, one of the best ways to study with Ikaya, in my own experience, is through the disciplined practice of meditation and singing the mantra and finding ways to then take the teachings that are associated with that mantra and to look for them in our lives. So it's not only about us practicing or playing with that teaching in our own behavior, but it's also about looking and trying to be really observant in our own lives how the principles behind each mantra over the next year will play out in the world around us. And it's fascinating. I had no idea that spiritual principles or any teaching could come alive so much in our daily lives. But when you work with Ikaya, your study becomes your life, and your life becomes your study. And I think that's the greatest gift, in a way, of working with Ikaya. So, all of that said, I was trying to give you a little bit of context. On a practical note, this is Ikaya Center, those who are here physically with us in Oslo. This is kind of the heart of Ikaya. But we have presence all over the world in many different countries, students who are studying with Ikaya through Ikaya Aligned Crystal Healing course, for example, or previous collections of Ikaya Mantras, Ikaya Spiritual Gym, and all of the other ways in which you can engage with Ikaya's teachings. I'll be back for some more information about the practical aspects of the course. But you guys didn't come here tonight to hear me. You've come to meet and engage with Ikaya. Remember, tonight is an open house, and it's all about your questions and your insights and reflections as you consider or already are committed to a journey with Ikaya Mantras. So Ikaya will teach or talk for a while, and then he'll open for questions. So if remember to have your questions as clearly as you can when that time comes. Okay, enough from me. Let's turn it over to Ikaya. Thank you, everybody.
Welcome, everyone. Mantras are such an important tool in our spiritual practices. And they have been used in all cultures throughout the world in different ways because we recognize as beings that the innermost essence of everything is vibration. That's the first type of information. Our natural state is happiness. It's love. It's being in a state of healing and love. But we don't experience it that often. And the reason is, of course, that number one, you have your own karma, which means you will always be confronted by your own resistance, your own imbalances. And by working them out and trying to figure out how to regain balance, you're working out your own resistance. And number two, we live in a world, in a civilization that is pulling you in all directions. Just as a life form, as a human, Genetically, we're programmed to exist in a very kind of simple setting with few people, small groups, where we learn everything we need to learn about life normally by the age of 10. We learn how to survive and how to do things and relate to the same people, and life is mostly predictable. This is how it has been for humans for most of evolution. And the level of complexity we all experience today is far beyond that. And we're not equipped to deal with the complexity in our own civilization. So that in itself means that we're pulled in all directions. We experience so much inner noise and outer noise. And because we're programmed to try to survive, we just try the best we can, and we get more and more confused. So humans today are more confused than ever, experience more noise. And because we're pulled in so many different directions, we can feel that we may have several thoughts that are in conflict with each other, several intentions and feelings and actions, and we can see all of it as just pulling us apart. And it's impossible to be happy when we're in that state. And yet, it's part of the landscape that you chose to incarnate into. It's part of the setting that you chose to work on your own karma. But, it doesn't help if we drown before we even get started. And that's the challenge with being human today. There are so many distractions. Our whole culture is about pulling ourselves away from our center. We need spiritual practices more than ever. When you go back in time where people had simpler lives, it was so easy to find your center spiritually. And you could, have all your practices, but it would just reinforce and amplify the center that you were already experiencing. Many people, even spiritual seekers, they feel lost. I've talked to so many people over the years. They've been very dedicated seekers. They've been doing their practices. They're doing everything right, and still they feel as confused as ever. They don't sense that they have found anything. They don't know anything more about who they are. They don't feel or sense their center. So they just do things and hope for the best. And yet they know, this is not working. Having practices that work are more important than ever. And I would say, when it comes to mantras, some of you that are taking part today, both here and online, may be new to the concept of mantras. Maybe you haven't used them. They're basically tuning forks. They represent certain vibrations, certain information that can assist you in opening up specific principles and specific aspects of our own consciousness. But then they have to be relevant. A lot of the old mantras, they are nice and they work. But they belong to a time where life was simpler. And because we build, just like a civilization, we build new levels all the time. We need mantras that can address that level of complexity and what it means to be human today. And the challenges we meet spiritually, because it's so different. But think of it, when you incarnate, the level of confusion you experience is basically yourself, your own misunderstandings, your resistance, your karma, whatever you want to call it. And then you encounter life, which is what is. So I describe karma as the distance between what you believe and what is. That's basically what karma is. And you can also call that resistance. When you incarnate, and when you're dealing with your karma, the point is always to find your way back to balance, because that's the point zero. And it's about regaining balance from all sorts of angles, in all forms of dimension, in all forms of challenges, because that is your center, that is when you are in alignment. So whenever life is testing you, you will be thrown off your game. And then the whole point is for you to navigate and find your way back. And by doing so, you're working out your karma and resistance until you find the point of balance. So by finding your absolute point of balance inside of you, you're also finding it in life. It's the same thing. So the whole karmic process is again and again and again, be thrown off and finding your way back. Thrown off, finding your way back. In a world that increasingly is pulling us in all different directions, it's more difficult. Mantras can assist you because when you are working on any type of karma, any type of principle, when you activate a mantra, it will work as a tuning fork for that particular vibration information, assisting you in knowing where you're moving, where you're going. You still have to move through the landscape of your own resistance, but you get a clear sense of direction. Because with today's confusion, you will not necessarily in your navigation know where you're going. You will not necessarily feel and sense that center, that point zero that you're looking for. If you lived in an ashram, maybe, because then the sense of center is so strong that you can be thrown off your game and you will more easily be able to find that balance again. But often people today, even people involved in spiritual work, feel that they've lost that. It's too much. So applying mantras can assist us in getting a clearer sense of that direction, which means our karmic work, our spiritual work, will be more efficient. We will get a sense of where we're going, and then we can move through the landscapes. It's so important that in true spiritual awakening, we need to understand that we have to work out all our resistance to life. Hope, magic, belief will not help you. It's only your own skills, and that you relate to reality for real, and that you work out any resistance that you have. So mantras will give you directions, and okay, I'm moving in that direction. You will be able to kind of calibrate yourself, and then you can work out whatever karma you're studying with more efficiency, more direction, and with more clarity. So the mantras we work with, they are adjusted to the consciousness of today and the seeds of today. And they're not new. It's just like every level of consciousness operates, just like in a building, you have different levels. And as you expand, as your journey changes, a new level of the building will be available to you. Maybe it wasn't because you didn't have the membership card, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't there. It was simply not available to you in your journey. So with each change in consciousness of the planet, new information, new tools to this planet will be released and will be available. Every step of the way, spiritually, we have to reinvent ourselves. We have to reinvent everything and to not be stuck in the old ways. You know the drill. When we get stuck in the old ways in our own personal life, we get stuck. We don't grow. We repeat. And what worked yesterday will not necessarily work tomorrow. Because whatever tool you're using belongs to the space that you were in. So as we grow, we need different tools. It will always have to change because we need to learn to monitor our own unfoldment, our own growth, our own healing for real, and not put too much emphasis on the tools. Because it's never about the tools. It's about you. It's about your journey. It's about the awakening process. And for you to learn exactly what nurtures your growth and what does not. So these mantras will stimulate you in new ways. It will open aspects of your consciousness that may only have been in the shadows or places of non-awareness in you. The collective spiritual knowledge on this planet is still quite primitive. And we need to move on. When you look at where the planet is at, we need to change fast. And if we spend too much time on our suffering and whining, that we have to change and things are changing and that's terrible, we're not part of the solution. As individuals of consciousness, we have an obligation to take part in the upliftment, to try to be part of the healing. Because we know that everything that's happening on the planet is absolutely necessary. It's how souls, atmas, work out their own resistance. And whenever consciousness is activated more, the complexity of conflict will also increase, both collectively but also individually. It does represent an opportunity to maximize growth, to maximize expansion. But then we need to be part of that. I often use the imagery of surfing. When we have a big wave, we can, surf or we can drown. It's more fun to learn how to surf, but it means we have to lift our own consciousness. And when you work with a lot of the old techniques, they work on a lower level because that was the lifting that was needed of human consciousness at that point. But at some point, the ceiling becomes the floor. And there will be bigger waves. So the experience today is that many of the old techniques and practices, they will still drown you because everything has been tuned up. We need to learn, we need to reinvent, and to be open to try new approaches. And for me, the most fundamental thing we need to learn is to monitor our own growth for real and understand what it means, to move away from belief and move into actual practices and learn the craftsmanship of consciousness. And that's what we're working with here in many different ways. And this mantra course will stimulate your exploration. How I structure it is that each month you will be given a mantra. And with that, you will also get the teachings, understanding what exactly it is that you will be working on with that specific mantra. And then you will practice, you will sing it, you will think it, and you will look for and watch how the teachings and everything connected to it will be activated in you. And then you unfold more than you would do otherwise. And you will be more competent and more confident as well in your own spiritual awakening. Because this is really what it's about. It's about lifting you to your full potential, reaching as far and as high as you can possibly go. Now, if you're new to mantras, how can mantras actually work? They're just sounds that you sing. But it's important to understand that every manifestation, they're all expressions of matrices and or paradigms behind them. So when you have a tradition, when you have beings of consciousness, when you have knowledge, in that whole kind of space of vibration available, being expressed through a certain concept, a certain mantra, that acts as a key to open the door to that particular space. So first, the space is built. First, the kind of definition of consciousness and the principles are there. And then that will be extracted into a mantra that then becomes the key to unlock access to that space of learning. So mantras only work when they are the result of spiritual beings offering that space of learning. Because then it's not just the mantra, but it's when you sing it, when you use it, it's like you holding a key and activating it. And that will then activate spiritual beings that will teach and assist you in your spiritual process. So it's very different from just taking any sound or any word. And this is also what you will be experimenting with and what you will also be experiencing. There are so many spiritual beings. Most beings have spiritual awareness. Remember what we call spiritual beings. There's often beings of simply a more advanced level of evolution. If you think of the fact that there are infinite dimensions, infinite, galaxies and universes and places to incarnate, infinite life forms, there will be more spiritual beings of service than there are numbers. So there are never just one, the only one. I know, like most belief systems and traditions, they like to convey that everyone, like, it's something special. There's just different ways, different approaches. And what I represent is an approach to this where a lot, and I mean a lot, of beings of service take part in this and can assist you based on where you are at in your journey. We all work from the perspective of absolute freedom, integrity, and respect for each pathway, each journey, each unique path. Remember that you are completely unique. Although there are infinite amounts of souls or atmas, we're all unique. And the awakening process is becoming aware of our uniqueness and what we vibrate and our own true path, which means activating everything that we are. And when you reach a certain level of consciousness, you understand this. You understand that the only true path is for anyone to stop following, to stop copying. And all you want to do is to assist others in finding their uniqueness and unfolding what they truly are. Because that's what the whole journey is about. So we will all be assisting you and what's needed for you to unfold what is uniquely your essence. The work we do here can be confusing. As I've expressed, how can people walking in all sorts of directions, in all types of consciousness and levels of evolution, and finding their own thing, how can that work as a community? It's exactly that. It's that we respect each other's path, each other's process, and what we find out, we can try to assist each other and learn from each other and love each other and respect each other. But there is no competition about who's closer to God or who owns truth, because it takes all of us. If it wasn't necessary, we all wouldn't exist. If one could carry the entire truth, there would be only one. We all exist because every single perspective is needed. But your perspective only comes into reality when you reach enlightenment. And every being of a certain consciousness and up understand this. So we try to assist you into higher consciousness a lot more than you are trying to achieve it, because we understand. So your path is necessary. What you find out in your process of awakening is necessary. And this is why we have to stop following. We have to stop copying. We need to explore. We need the tools. We need to relate to ourselves as the true essence. And that is what these mantras are doing. They're activating that essence. And it builds that resonance in you that assists you in understanding who and what you are and why you are here in incarnation. Because it's not to survive. It's not to go around in life and suffer, and be triggered and to be annoyed. It can also be that. But it's basically that unfoldment of what you are as true essence. Mantras are so direct. They carry you into different spaces in yourself. And as you go from mantra to mantra, you will feel that everything shifts. And over time, you will sense a greater alignment in you. Number one, it's just the feeling that you can experience also as a person, that your thoughts and feelings, your intentions, your body and your life, they're working in harmony instead of against each other, which is quite normal for humans today. Part of being pulled apart. You will have the active sense of coming together, and you start understanding more of where you are, who you are, and why you are here. You can take the wheel. You can become the driving force in your life instead of experiencing that life is just happening to you. Because the truth is that you are happening to life. But when we're stuck in suffering, we'll always just go around and react to stuff. We will be triggered. We have got more than enough to figure out how to not drown. And we're not aware of that spiritual dialogue taking place. These mantras will lift you and assist you in recognizing why you are here. And they will assist you in creating this resonance where you as essence become awake. And gradually it will take over. Because it's not like you as a human that you are on a spiritual journey. You as a spiritual being are on a human journey, right? But we get confused. The more we get entangled in our karma, and when it's difficult to find our way because of all the noise, we start believing that we're humans on a spiritual journey. And when that becomes what we believe, we never find it. We never find the path. We never find what we're looking for. Because it's not the human that is really looking for anything. It's you as a spiritual being. The human being a tool, being the vehicle of the journey. But the first step of the true awakening is to become aware that you are a spiritual being on a human journey. And the human journey is about you dissolving more karma, more resistance, and getting even closer to alignment and harmony with life. So when you study with me, you will gradually move into that, not only awareness, but you will acknowledge it. And even as a person, that will begin kind of growing in you. And even in your mind and emotions, you will recognize that, yeah, I am a spiritual being and this is my human. You wake up even in your humanness. We need to lift ourselves beyond the noise. And mantras are such effective tools in achieving just that. Many of you may have worked with mantras before, but you're new to this work. What can you expect? What will be different? Now, the core of these teachings is how to live as a spiritual being, how to incarnate your spiritual potentials. I often talk about spiritual traditions because of the lower consciousness that humans used to be in. We focus on getting away from here. It was always about getting away from this terrible life because there was so much suffering. Human life was not a lot of fun. So of course, spirituality focused on how to get away, how to escape it all. And that's, when you look at religions, that's really what they're trying to offer. Spiritual practices were always about how to free yourself from this prison. And yes, you can figure out how to reach a state of transcendence, which means that you as consciousness are able to kind of rise above and be free and experience a sense of freedom. But what one did not understand is that that is actually imprisonment, because you're not free as long as you're running away from something. Freedom is being able to be in everything, but being in harmony. So transcendence is just the first step of trying to get an overview without your noise, so that you can look at everything and say, oh, I get it now. Then the work starts. Then the key is to incarnate that transcendence, and then incarnate it, and then stay in that spiritual awareness and overview and understanding while interacting with life, because that transcendence is supposed to change everything. Because then you can find the balance point in everything. Then it will work. Then you will be free from suffering, because it's not the manifestations that cause suffering. It's your inability to be in harmony with life that causes suffering. So when you're in a state of transcendence, you can do, oh, I'm free, I'm in balance now. Well, live it. And this is what we're focusing on in this work. I always say, I do not offer a way out. I offer a way in. All of you here, everyone that come to me, have in their history achieved transcendence in different ways. And then you recognize that, oh, right, doesn't work. Because it's just like one movement. You transcend, you learn, but you don't apply it. So you go back down, and then next point of suffering, you try to escape yet again. Spiritual at some point recognize, I have to incarnate this. I need to live it. I need to be able to work with matter and space and everything. And then, yes, if I'm not in resistance, I can deal with everything, and I will see God in matter. I don't have to be free from it, because my balance and harmony will be the freedom. So that will be the proof of the pudding. Proof of your true level of consciousness is how you're able to interact with life. Not just be here and be disconnected, but actively engage, actively taking part. And the result is healing. The result is growth. The result is happiness. Because when you are in alignment, when you are in that transcendence and you incarnate it, that's what you produce. You produce beauty. You produce joy. You produce freedom. But it takes a different approach. And this is also where we are at spiritually today, is that more and more people are discovering that we have to move on. We have to become smarter about our spiritual journeys. If our belief systems and religions and traditions worked, the state of the planet would be different. The human civilization would be different. In fact, the state of the planet is the result of the religions and the traditions and what has been offered so far. Lack of moving from transcendence. So traditionally, people who figured out how to lift their consciousness, they would stay there for themselves. They would not engage. Doesn't help anyone. We need to be here. We need to incarnate even more deeply. That's how we can touch others. We can only touch others when we are here. When we practice and live what we activate in ourselves spiritually. And this is what we call divine service is about. It's not being in a lofty position, looking down, It's being here, demonstrating the state of balance and harmony. And then in our lives, what we produce is what other people can relate to as happiness and joy and love and freedom. And if you're not in that state in yourself, it's because you haven't really figured it out yet. How we live is our level of consciousness. Ultimately, what I teach is how to gradually transform your life into the spiritual practice. Because life is the spiritual practice. Otherwise, we would be doing something else. There is absolutely nothing in life that does not have a spiritual intention, because everything is of oneness. The rest is just misunderstandings. So life is the spiritual practice. But because we believe in the noise, and we lose connection to the fact that we are spiritual beings, we start seeing life as getting in the way of our spiritual practices. Life will always show us exactly where we're at spiritually, our exact point of evolution, our exact point of resistance. So we have to be honest, we have to be truthful, we have to want to grow for real. I often talk about how modern spirituality has, in a way, lost itself in posing an ego and competition, about who's more spiritual, look at me, that kind of thing. Because as humans, we're very hierarchical and we want to display our spirituality and how wise we are and all of that. It's natural, but it's not what it is about. Because your path belongs to you. There's only one individual there, and it's you. Your path is unique to you. Your essence is unique to you. And it's only what you do that matters. Only your level of consciousness, and you can't fake it. It's not like if you can convince enough people that you have a high level of consciousness, that magically then you have a high level of consciousness. It doesn't work that way. It's just the honesty, the dedication, and the work. And hopefully what we are doing here is that we try to inspire each other to be truthful, that we don't have to pose, that we can look at ourselves and others and have empathy and compassion, and just inspire each other to deal with reality. Because we all figure it out at some point. So these mantras will also activate your heart, will activate your sense of love towards yourself. Because if you don't want to love yourself, you can't grow. Because loving yourself, that's your job. Other people's jobs are basically them loving themselves. We have to love what we see. We have to love what we connect with in ourselves, including our own karma, including everything we haven't figured out yet. And see that our life is a spiritual practice. And who we are as a person, that's the cluster of karma that we're dealing with. We have to love that. We can't heal something unless we love it. We can't nurture something unless we love it. The interesting thing is the moment we get to alignment, or sense alignment, which basically means that all the different parts that we are is in the same point. We start feeling this. We move into self-acceptance. We can see our own beauty. We can see our own uniqueness. And we're filled with love towards what we are. Because that's our natural state. It's important to understand that evolving yourself spiritually is not really difficult. It's the most natural thing of all, because you are of oneness. You are a spiritual essence. It's simply about peeling away the misunderstandings about what you are not. And this work is about assisting you as efficiently as possible to regain your memory, to regain your sense of center, balance, and alignment. And then you'll have a sense of you. You'll have a sense of life. And you will start understanding what it is for. You can start engaging in your life as a spiritual practice. And as you do, everything becomes alive. The spiritual journey is a simple one. And for you to reach a state of happiness and love and joy and balance and all of that is very simple. And with what I teach, and when you apply it, you will accelerate how much you're able to peel off, how much you connect with yourself, and how much you connect with your natural state. Because in alignment, all of this just flows through. It's natural. I'm not saying that you can achieve all of this in just 1 year. That would be a little naive, but it's you becoming more and more, I often use the word competent because, it's basically what it is, in your own path. Understanding how to work with yourself and work with life, and you being able to monitor your own growth and seeing what assists you in unfoldment and what is blocking you. And whatever you figure out, sure, that's what you need to do. And often in our journeys, we figure something out, and then after a while it doesn't work anymore, and then we have to do something else. It's how the journey kind of works. But you need to develop that consciousness and that ability to observe yourself, and you can't do that in your human form for as long as you are confused, as long as there is noise, and as long as you are just trying to figure things out in life. So, these mantras that we will be working with are mostly mantras that you have not heard before or used before. Tonight we will also be singing a mantra, but this is also an old mantra that is not particularly new, but for some of you it might be. But we will be singing a mantra tonight simply because some of you may not have any experience with mantras and what they do. And this is a mantra that opens the heart and connects you to your own flow and to the sense that there is absolute order in existence, for you to go beyond the self and open yourself to that flow. And that mantra is HU. It's written, it's written HU. It's pronounced HU. And you can sing it in whatever way you want. When singing it together, it's like just one continuous tone in many different levels. All rhythms and levels are okay. It becomes this wonderful sound. And as we sing, just try to connect to your heart. Try just to open up. Just try to get a sense of what a mantra actually does. Listen to it as a tuning fork. And as you sing, remember that when you use your voice, it's also the vibration of your voice that your body recognizes, right? Because the quality and sound of your voice will be unique to you. So it also means that your body has less resistance to that than, for instance, if you were listening to someone else, because that's someone else. So singing means that you can more easily connect your body to your consciousness. Because when you sing, there will be no conflict. And it's easier simply to go into that focus and open your heart and open your mind, just connect with love. Because this is a mantra of love. And it has been used in many different traditions in the exact same way. It's connecting to the love of the universe and letting it flow through our own heart, thereby us kind of aligning ourselves with that flow. So now just close your eyes and sit comfortably. And when you close your eyes, just focus on your heart. Just try to imagine that your heart is a ball of light, yellow-white light, and that you allow for this ball of light to grow, to simply vibrate love. And as we sing, try to connect with the fact that the universe is in love with you. Because oneness sees the full potential of who you are and is madly in love with you. Try to let that love surround you. Just open yourself to it. Now, when we sing, sing in whatever way you feel comfortable. Different rhythms, different, notes, different heights. It's all good. Just focus on love. So now, breathe deeply a few times. Just try to sense love. And we will be singing for about 5 minutes. You Focus on your heart flow and you being loved. And visualize light if you want, golden white light. And feel that warmth. Let divine love fill you, every cell in your body, every particle of your entire existence. You may open your eyes. As you can sense, you're more connected. Your heart is more activated. And there is an increase in loving flow coming through. This is why mantras are so wonderful. As tuning forks, And as you, as a spiritual being, you understand how they work. And they will assist you in all levels of yourself to move into a state of alignment, to allow more of what is, and to peel away all misunderstandings. As I said, it's simple. I will open for questions now, if you have any, both online and here. If you have any questions around mantras or this course or anything in general.
Karina on Zoom, would you like to ask your question? You are unmuted, Karina, so I think you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yes, this was a beautiful session. Thank you so much, Ikaya, for taking the time today. I have two questions. So I would be interested actually in this mantra course. So will you let us or share a little bit more in regards to the costs involved? That's the first question that I have. And the second question, earlier you were speaking about confusion. We have confusion with all of this noise that we're experiencing in the world. So I experienced this pandemic really coming to my center because I've been working from home, just being at home as much as never before in my life. And I do feel very connected and very centered. So does that mean that a lot of the confusion around me has resolved?
To answer first question, first that the practical things Andy will talk about after
Okay, excellent. Thank
I'm
you.
done. Now, when it comes to confusion, it's more than just what is going on right now. It's what it means to be human at this point. Because we have so many kind of distractions, so many ways of disconnecting ourselves from consciousness. And it means even comfort is a way to disconnect. Comfort is predictability repeated. So even comfort can be noise. Anything that does not actively nurture our awakening. So it's not like noise in your life has dissolved because you live on this planet and everybody's going through different waves of karma. So it doesn't mean that we have the same volume all the time. Everything goes in waves. And we are connected to many different lines of karma at the same time. So it goes up and down, and then you have many lines going up and down in different rhythms. So we find in life that, some phases are more active, some phases are calmer. But in general, when you ask people about their lives and where they are at, they would not necessarily say that they feel that they understand why they are here, where they are aiming, what the purpose of this lifetime is, and that they are in an active state of healing. And this is really what awakening is about. It's not about what we call the horizontal level, which means the human life and what we do here. It is the awakening of what we call the vertical, which is a strictly spiritual consciousness. And, humans have always tried to figure out how to activate the spiritual consciousness and how to break through I always say that the outside world is still the inside walls of your own mind. Because no matter how you relate to life, it's still you. What you experience is a highly filtered version based on your own consciousness, and based on what your brain decides to focus on, which is very little for all of us. We will only notice what we think is relevant. And it doesn't necessarily mean that what our brains are drawn to, or what we're drawn to as people, represent what will make us grow spiritually. Part of the noise today is that it's too convenient. The more convenience we have, the more depressed people normally become. And we see that. In societies where everything is very simple, everything is figured out, people don't get happy, they get depressed. Because we don't connect. We don't journey. When we can have everything we want by the push of a button, it does not make anyone happy. It's learning how to kind of get past the horizontal part of the journey and connect to what we are spiritually. So noise can come in many different forms and shapes. It is whatever pulls us out of that active experience sense of alignment, where we can then understand exactly who we are, and where we're going, and why. Okay? You had a question? If we can find a microphone. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was just wondering, how would you describe being enlightened? Because I have heard many people talk about this, and also I feel a bit resistance towards this word.
Yes. The easy way to basically talk about enlightenment is that it is a word. And therefore, it's meaningless. The challenge is when we try to communicate something, we have to use words. But the moment you use a word, you pervert everything, because a word will also consist of whatever belief system the receiver has around that word. This is why, it can mean anything. Right? So the reason why I use it is, I say, it points in the general direction. It points in the direction more than if I said Fruit Loops, right? So basically it is a word, although it means a lot of different things to different people, it can point in a general direction of something. But it is, in a way, completely meaningless, because unless you are there, you cannot possibly understand it. But if I can try to explain some of it, I have tried to explain this concept in many different ways, and often you have to piece it together, because if I gave you thousands and different examples, it would still not be enough to cover it. So I can't just give one explanation, but I can try to give some of it. It is the absolute recognition that everything is God. And what happens, often when you walk the path, you focus on yourself. You focus on the idea that, I means I am light. It's actually the opposite. Because you recognize that whatever you see is filtered through your consciousness and your own limitations. And what happens when you reach that state is that those limitations are not there. which means you can see everything for what it is. So the whole world is light, not you. But you include yourself, so you see everything as the same. Oneness becomes a practical manifested reality. And therefore, you don't relate to anything based on its form, but based on its essence. Doesn't matter if it's a human, an object, an animal, or whatever it is. All you focus on is the observation of the essence and the unfoldment of that. And you know whatever that essence needs to go through in order to kind of peel off the misunderstandings. That's what he needs to go through to reach full realization. But you don't relate to the form, and therefore you have no reactions. You cannot be triggered because you see it based on its full potential, and your only focus is how can one nurture that? Because that's all the universe cares about. It's and what you and everything else is as essence, and how to make that reach full bloom. And there is nothing else. But still, these are just words. But it points in the general direction. And the thing is also, as I always say, there are several reasons why it's meaningless, because no matter what I say, you and others will hear it based on your own level of consciousness, and you will make up your own mind and stories about what it is. And that is fine. As you've all experienced that, when you grow, your definitions change. Your understanding of definitions change, right? So enlightenment and whatever else, like any spiritual concept, as you grow, you notice that, yeah, you can use the same word, but you have a very different understanding. And then it changes, and it changes again, and again, and again, and again, and again, because we peel off more of our own version. Now, I often talk about survival consciousness as the primary state of humans in all life forms. If you can imagine a state where your existence and your thoughts and your feelings and your intention needs, you care about them as much as you care about other people's needs and thoughts. You don't see them as more important. You see them as the same, because it's oneness. So you don't care about what separates us, because you just know different perspectives based on consciousness. And you move beyond that. But you also are in a state where you fully recognize what you are as essence, beyond form. Now, from a physics perspective, I often describe this as, if you can think of yourself as a set of vibrations. If you can understand that a certain vibration can exist in the entire universe, and in all universes at the same time. And that can only be activated once you go past the illusion of the individual. So that is why existence, in a way, tries to encourage the unfoldment. Because once you then reach what one can call enlightenment, it's simply that it goes from the seed state, which means it's contained, and then it becomes part of existence, which means that vibration, if you will, that essence of what you are, will be activated in the entire existence. It becomes a vibration that now is part of the fabric of reality. And this is why, when one tries to explain it, is that one is everywhere. But it's not the individual being everywhere. It is no longer an individual. So this is also why I say that an individual can never become enlightened. It is the enlightenment that becomes the individual. It is the complete kind of dissolvement of the concept of a being. But again, these are still just words. And it's for everyone to explore, but I think it's also important that it doesn't matter. Where we are is where we are, right? And humans turn this into a power game and hierarchy. Ooh, I'm enlightened, blah, 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 we turn it into that. This is why also people use the term. And that's fine, but it's not what it is. It's more important that we learn to relate to exactly where we are in our evolution and work from there. And understand that the journey never stops. One way I also explain the state from an individual perspective is that you're simply better at learning. One way of describing true expansion of consciousness is how fast you adapt to change. If you can think the entire universe, and every time something new happens, everything has to be calibrated to that. Because everything changes all the time. It's this kind of recalculation of everything that never stops. And this is why evolution is so much about adapting to change, because this is how we start practicing. And as you expand, it's simply a matter of how much can you adapt to at the same time. So when we claim that I have found truth, it's already outdated. It doesn't matter how beautiful it is or how much you think you understand. Yeah, universe just recalculated itself 10,000 times since then, and you have to learn it all again. So it's basically how fast are we able to relearn. If we want to do that, we can't start with ourselves. We can't start with I have truth. And the true expansion is how much can we deal with? How much can we actually be in concert with at the same time? Because it means we have to relearn and adapt continuously. So, from a human, often ego perspective, we think that once we reach enlightenment, then it's done, nothing more to learn. It's actually the opposite. As we grow spiritually, we recognize that there is more to learn. It never stops. It's only in the low level of consciousness we think that truth is static and that we can have it. Because absolutely everything changes continuously. We will change with it. So it's the willingness and ability to change and adapt continuously that truly describes and kind of proves our level of consciousness. So, to be in the really high level of consciousness, you simply need to adapt and learn faster. And that's really what happens. So it doesn't stop. It simply means that you're able to adapt without resistance. And most people have more than enough trying to adapt to their own lives and what happens karmically. And when we say, well, I was in a high level of consciousness, but then this person did that, right? It means that you cannot even operate in a coherent consciousness in your own space. You can't fake a high level of consciousness because it's about what we continuously do and demonstrate and what we are and how we are what we are. So therefore, in a way, the question about enlightenment is irrelevant. It's always about how can we be what and who we are in concert with life and understand that that never ends. But there are certain kind of milestones that we can recognize. But we have no possible way to understand it before we're there. good. Any other questions?
We have a question from Kathleen
sure.
in the United States. She wonders if you could speak a moment to the physics of raising the vibration of your being using mantras. How do the mantras make your body or being into a tuning fork?
Yes. Well, it starts by first using the mantra as the tuning fork, right? Understanding you as the instrument being out of tune. So it's very much like tuning an instrument based on a tuning fork. And as we know, as individuals, as instruments, when we hear a tuning fork and we can sense that vibration, we will start hearing when we're out of tune and it's painful. Just like, when you can hear an instrument being out of tune, it's absolutely terrible to listen to once you have the tuning fork, right? So we are then drawn to create balance in ourselves in those areas where we then notice that we're out of tune. Because we can't tune the whole instrument at the same time. If you think of yourself, if you think of a grand piano, right? But think of it being 1 mile long. You have an enormous amount of keys and strings. So you can't tune it all at the same time. So it's basically listening to one tuning fork and then listening to what happens in me, how can I tune a little bit, and then another tuning fork, and then you tune a little bit there. And remember that whenever we find alignment, which is basically when something in us is in tune, more of our flow comes through. And just like any instrument, once it's tuned, it's not permanent. You can tune a piano, and when you play, after a while it will be out of tune again. That's how life is. It's not permanent. As we talked about, our ability to relearn and adapt. So it's also a matter of learning how to tune ourselves and how to be in that process continuously, not thinking, well, I'm all tuned now, so there, right? Learning that, when we play our instrument, when we are in life, when we participate, all of a sudden we'll be stuck in a definition or something that life has moved on from. And then we'll be out of tune again, and then we'll have to retune, right? It never ends. And it becomes more interesting and more fun. Because it's this conversation that we have with life. That life will show us, here's the tuning fork, and we can tune, and then I can play now, for a while, and then it moves on again. So mantras will then act as these tuning forks in our system, all of it, in our mind, emotions, body, and our different bodies and different levels. They will be drawn to that, and we will hear our own discrepancies more clearly. And the thing is, as consciousness, we want growth. Spiritually, we know that we're on our path. We know that we are on a journey on unfoldment. So, when we recognize something as a tuning fork, we will start to figure out, I can hear or sense something being out of tune here. How can I tune it? It becomes more proactive. Right? Instead of feeling that we're suffering all the time because we're living ourselves as instruments being out of tune. We will move towards wanting to tune ourselves, because then in those strings, suddenly we can hear harmony. Suddenly we can play in concert with life. Everything opens up. So this is why we need many different tools. We can't just use one. We need to understand our toolbox and also apply different tools and see what happens, because we need to explore. We need to get used to ourselves as an instrument, and also how to play around with it. Because we have to play, we have to explore, and we have to test out different approaches and things and never get stuck. That also means never get stuck with one particular tool. No matter how wonderful it is, it cannot be used for everything. So it's also with mantras to see like what happens in me, what comes to mind, what will manifest in my life, and see that your dialogue and your discussion, within yourself and with life will be amplified. And then we do the work. But then based on the teachings, you will also know what this is about. What life is then trying to teach you, what principles and where you need to relearn in order to tune yourself. Because remember that to tune yourself, you have to change. So it means learning. It's concrete. It's working on patterns and working on beliefs, working on behaviors, working on how we manifest and change that. So it's very concrete, but life will then show you. And every time we're able to make an adjustment, we can then sense that, right, my flow is strengthened. I'm more in balance now. And I get a sense of freedom and harmony and love in my life. So becoming a tuning fork, as you also asked about, is more complicated. It means when you have internalized certain principles, means that you're able to be in it and adapt and basically be a surfer on that as a wave, and you've learned to adapt continuously without holding on to anything, without owning it, without needing it. It's just there, and you're able to be in that balance point as it moves. Then you will be part of the universe as a tuning fork in that particular principle or particle of yourself, so that others can kind of tune themselves from that. And the wonderful thing is, just like with the grand piano, some strings may be perfectly tuned, some strings might be far off, right? And this is what the journey is. We need to understand that we're very complex beings. The journey is complex. And sometimes we might feel, yes, in this area, I'm just like, now I'm in harmony, everything is working. And then at the same time, we may experience structures and areas of ourselves where we're far off. It's part of the journey. And we get to love all these different states, because instead of just experiencing them, we can interact with them, we can explore, and we build. Because your consciousness is built. It doesn't just happen. Anyone else? Microphone over here.
Hi, I'm really happy that I jumped into this course last year. It's been a game changer just having like this form of active meditation that I show up to every day. And my question is, are mantras like something of this world, this planet, or are there other beings like floating around, singing or vibrating these sounds other places?
Yes. The reason why mantras work is because they are connected to higher consciousness, which means they represent kind of sounds that will connect you to tuning forks. They're definitely not of this world. They wouldn't work if they were. So any mantra that is active will be in use in many universes and dimensions and cultures and all of that, because the understanding and also the collective consciousness of how one works with a certain mantra will also be part of the space you connect to when singing the mantra. And therefore, when someone has had an experience with a certain mantra and they have gone through a transformation, that becomes part of the information available through that mantra, right? So for a mantra to work, it can't just be kind of made up. It's the opposite. It starts with a space and with beings and with teachers and with practices, and how a certain mantra then is being kind of extracted from that, carrying that vibration. And all of these different variations of learning and connection will then be available through it. So just by singing and tuning in, all of a sudden we'll have an idea. Because the transformation from someone else will then be part of the information that one can activate in oneself. So it's then easier to navigate because other individuals will have navigated the same movements in different ways. So one can find inspiration in that. So mantras are wonderful because they're whole spaces of information, different ways to be activated through a particular mantra. So absolutely, they're definitely not of this world.
Thank you so much for these classes. I'm starting now the 4th year, and I'm really excited about that. Thank you so much for that. And I have 2 quick comments and a question.
Yes.
The first comment is, these teachings, if I have any criticism of them, it's that they're really deep and they're really, at times, complex.
I'm sorry.
No. But there's a lot to work with, and the complaint is that the month goes too quick.
Yep.
Because I feel like sometimes.
Yes.
I'm still just understanding and peeling the onion, and yet now we're ready for a new one.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot, and it's really valuable to have that as kind of a backdrop, as like a music sound backdrop to what's going on in my life, at least.
Yeah.
And secondly, I just wanted to comment, because you're using the metaphor of tuning. If you've ever gone to a concert when they have like dozens of instruments in an orchestra, I always love that little moment right in the very beginning, before they start, when all the instruments tune into the same pitch. But then there's this like quiet after.
Yes.
And it's in that quiet moment, that's the coolest part, because then you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
So I really love that part of that.
Yes.
The question I have is, a lot of mornings I'll start working with the mantra, and I feel like I'm tuning in with the orchestra. And I'd like for you to, how can we do that, and how does that work?
By doing exactly that. I think it's, using imagery that comes to mind and play with it, because we have imagination and that can help us. So I think doing that and seeing, yes, you are tuning your instrument to then be part of life. As I said, like, it's only in the areas of yourself where you are tuned, where you will be in harmony with life, and therefore life can flow through you. When you have resistance, not so much, right? So it's also about like allowing life to flow through you, and allowing life and its harmony to then express itself through your existence in your life. If you're blocked, there will be only you and your karma and your thoughts. Right? Nobody wants that. So it's like when we're in tune, we open up, and all of a sudden the universe can come through and you will see it. So it's, yes, the difference is, as I've explained, basically, if all your strings are out of tune, you will only be sitting in your own room because you're not part of the orchestra. You can play, but it doesn't make sense, right? Just like when we look at a symphony and we look at, each instrument and their score, they may play a little bit, and then they're quiet for like 20 seconds, and then also whoop, something there, something, if they only have that score, it doesn't make any sense. Who we are makes no sense. It's only when we're part of life, actively part of this wonderful existence of oneness, and every potential in us and every potential in everyone else. When that starts to come together, then we can hear the symphony of life. But it can only happen in the areas of ourself where we're tuned, because only tuned instruments can play in the orchestra. It's that simple. So yes, whenever we tune ourselves in different ways, we get closer to that. We can start experiencing that. And this is also why you've all had this experience. When you feel more tuned and when you're more aligned in your center, you start seeing things in your life lining up, right? That happens and then that happens and then you met that person said that, and this, you get into that flow, which is basically, yes, parts of yourself were tuned so you could now play in the orchestra. This is what it is. So the more we tune, the more we do the work, that will become a permanent thing, because then we will be experiencing life with this enormous orchestra where everything is in sync. Just like a symphony, every single instrument will have its purpose and its unique expression. And it's only when it comes together. But this is what we experience. Whenever we are a little bit more in that flow, it starts to manifest, right? It's just this. It can't happen when we're out of tune. And we're out of tune most of the time, and this is why we're not experiencing it. It can be permanent. Life can make absolute sense absolutely all the time. Because from the universe perspective, everything does make sense. Because from the perspective of oneness and absolute, mathematical precision. But we have to be part of it. We have to tune ourselves. We have to adapt. And as we move forward, we're able to do it more efficiently. We can basically tune our instrument as we're playing and as we're learning the new score. Like it goes so much, quicker, because we get used to it. We get used to the pace. And we're in a mindset of always adapting, always changing. Because this is also, when you have experienced that kind of flow energy, and you feel you know what's going to happen here, just recognize it, it's because you are adapting. You're not deciding what you are going to do, what's happening, because in those moments, you can't separate yourself from the world around you. Right? It's like this deja vu that's going on for hours. Right? You can just feel it. But you're adapting to reality without resistance in those pathways or those moments. And this is what it's about. It's concrete. It's not for you to be in harmony with yourself, by yourself. You get connected to life in a very different way. So it's also understanding that it cannot happen unless we do the work. You can't just say, well, why I'm not connected? I've lost my connection, boo-hoo. Do the fucking work. It's like tune your instrument. And this is what we need to learn when it comes to spiritual work. As like hope and prayers, it's garbage. Just like following, submission, all of that, belief systems will not do anything. You have to do the work. You are a musician. You just don't know it yet. You have your instrument. Everything is in place. You just have to learn how to play it and how to tune your instrument and how to be part of the orchestra. So when people feel that sense of disconnect, yeah, they're out of tune. It's just that, right? And many people also talk with me when they're confused, like, I was so much connected and now it's all gone. What happened? Well, life changed. Life moved on. You were playing one bar and then we went to the next one. And then you continued to play the previous bar, and no. Immediately, you're not part of the orchestra anymore. And maybe you're out of tune, because we have to tune ourselves. We should never assume that we are in tune. We should always assume that there is more work that needs to be done. And it's growing into this mindset and attitude of continuous change, continuous learning, and always assuming that there is more. But back to what you said, yes, in many ways, we should have had like several months for each mantra and each stone. But most humans don't necessarily in the beginning relate to the depth. So when you approach it from a more kind of superficial level, you think you got it. And so we have to relate to that too, because it's really important that people who are not as confident in their spiritual work still can connect with this. But if you can also, just to understand what we're talking about, if you're going from there to there, if you're moving on the surface, it's smooth sailing. But if you're going in depth, all of a sudden the journey is a lot longer, right? And there is more to do within a shorter time frame. So there is that. At some point, I might also have in-depth courses that will be extremely hardcore for those who are there, where we may study, mantras or stones for several months and really kind of like dig in. But for now, we're doing kind of once a month. But yes, I'm aware it is a lot. And it's also getting used to adapting quickly, right? Because if you have a lot of time and you're being superficial, right, and you're on that beginner's level, you think this is how it is, right? So forcing oneself to adapt and to learn, then go to the next one, to also experience that kind of change and see that, ooh, my life is actually changing. There's a new setting. And people can see when there's a new mantra coming in or a new stone. It's like they can see. And often when they then get the teaching, they recognize the changes that started to happen. And it's very concrete and it's fun. So I think, yes, it is quite dense. And I think it's important for those of you who are joining for the first time, prepare yourself. This is quite dense. It's quite comprehensive. And you will have to do the work. It's not, you can use it for entertainment, but it's not the best entertainment because you will be challenged and kind of triggered so that you may work on your karma more efficiently. But if that's what you want, normally when people come to me, it's because they want to dig in for real. So if you recognize in yourself that you've come to a point in your own journey where you simply want to learn how to do it, you want to connect, you want to learn how the universe works and how you can deal with it for real, and to build your own strength, to build your own talents, to build your own confidence in dealing with life, and for you to walk your own path and to wake up spiritually for real, then welcome. This will be a lot of fun. And this is what people experience. It's more challenging than anything else, but you also get more results. Any other questions?
Yes, we had a good question from Christine that highlights one of the best parts of working with you as a spiritual teacher. She says that you say that the mantras can assist us in achieving enlightenment, but at the same time, the path to enlightenment is unique for each of us. So when we sing IKYA mantras, will they hit each of us differently? And if so, how will you be assisting us individually with these experiences in the process of this course?
Right. Just like a tuning fork is representing a principle. When you listen to instruments being tuned, they all sound different. Right? It's still the same note. So it's both that uniqueness of the individual expression, but the tuning fork is the same, and how you tune towards that will be the same. But it's for whatever like tone and instrument that you carry, for that to be in harmony with life. So that is how it's working. So yes, absolutely, it will hit all of you differently based on what you need to work on in order to achieve a higher level of harmony. And my job as a spiritual educator is to assist you both in understanding what is going on, but also for you to notice what is happening in you. So it's not like you just go through your own experiences. You get to track them. You will develop an awareness of your own growth and your own process. So I will assist you, what we often refer to as like on the inners, basically through the channels that are not horizontal, to understand more of what's going on, so you get more insight into how your dialogue with life happens. And that's definitely very individual for each person. And when it comes to how can I be with everyone, it's back to what I described as it's not this. It doesn't operate like an individual. It can be in form, but that which I am is present everywhere. And it can also be in form because it's easier to communicate through a form, but it's not limited by it. So it's what I represent as information and vibration and consciousness are part of the fabric of life and therefore can manifest absolutely anywhere. So it's very simple. And working with me also means you have to learn over time to not put too much attention or focus on this form because it's just one form. But as humans, what we like to do, of course, is relate to form and then define it, label it, make up stories, and think that is what it is. So this is also part of how you will be challenged to go beyond this form and connect with what is kind of inside of it or beyond it. And the more you do that, the more you will experience that what I am can be with you all the time, if that is what you want. And I can then also teach you more specifically and in detail. There are a lot when it comes to spiritual studies that cannot be put into words, but I can show you. I can assist you in understanding what is happening, both in your inner worlds and the outer ones, so you can kind of connect the dots. So I can assist you in your own growth. But I have to be there while it's happening. And that's for you over time to both open yourself to that, but also practice it, if that's something you want. Any other questions? Okay. Now, the fundamental part of this is you connecting to yourself, connecting to life, and learning to be fully aware of your own dialogue with life on your own. Because that's the wonderful thing, is that the universe is always communicating, but we don't always know how to listen. And we're blocking ourselves from listening. It's not like life is not talking with us. And this is also what changes the more we experience harmony, is that we pick up more in that conversation. We pick more up on the information that life is showing us. Because life is continuously mirroring and showing everything we need. Every information about wherever we are out of tune, wherever we have resistance or karma, it will be shown. And life will explain. But when we are in resistance, we say no. We don't want to know because we blame the world. As long as we blame the world, we're not willing to listen. You know, and just getting to that point where we are willing, where we are available. Because the challenge is often that we claim that we want to learn, and yet we want to be right. Right? it doesn't add up. And learning to move into a state of consciousness where we want to learn, meaning that we accept that our version is probably not the full one, probably not the right one, and that's fine. And all we want is just learn how to be more in harmony and change for that to happen. And to change, we need to learn. Otherwise, we wouldn't know how to do it. Right? And that whole process of growing into having a better kind of like study technique in our lives and learn that it's not difficult. Your dialogue with life is the most natural process of all. Yet in our civilization, we learn nothing about it. And therefore, we turn it into something mysterious. We turn it into religion. You know, where someone who thought they heard something sometime have a story about it, and then maybe, you know, it's that. You can do it yourself. You can do it yourself. And life is already speaking to you. And it's up to you to unblock yourself and to learn how to listen, how to take active part in the conversation. Because you're not just supposed to listen. You're supposed to answer. You're supposed to state questions. And that's what you do by living. You know, because the language is not necessarily verbal. It's how you manifest, how you express, and then seeing how life responds, trying to show you how to tune yourself, how to get closer to truth. Remember that life will never block you. Because life only wants you to unfold and to blossom and to be everything you can be. We are the ones blocking. And we can learn how to unblock, how to be part of this conversation in full consciousness. But then we have to change everything. We have to be willing to change everything and to learn. And again, to go beyond belief, go beyond relating to something someone said, reading holy books and all of that. You are the holy book. You are the living conversation. You are living truth. You're just too busy lying to understand it. You know, but that is not who we are. It's peeling that away. And that's what we're doing with this work. It's empowering you as a spiritual being, not empowering you as a person. You understand the difference? So we will only empower you as a spiritual being so that you may step out of the monkey suit, you know, and fully acknowledge yourself as a spiritual being and to live here in that full consciousness. So that is basically what I'm offering you, is that gradual study until you reach full awareness of your own journey, of your own essence and your own dialogue, so that you can walk your own path in your own way, but in complete concert with the universe, in concert with other beings, and ultimately become a tuning fork so that you are part of lifting the universes and inspiring growth, and for others to also find their own path in their own way. And that's it for me tonight. And then Andy will give you more practical information. If you allow me, my love is always with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ikaya. I will be brief. It's been a long and beautiful evening with Ikaya. IKYA Mantras Collection 4, our next course, it starts in just 2 weeks from tonight on the 25th, and it runs on Tuesdays for the next year. The first Tuesday, when we introduce the mantra, will be Ikaya teaching that mantra for about 2 hours, including singing meditation with you. And then you go home and practice on your own. The recommended discipline is that you sing daily in the morning. And generally, it may vary from mantra to mantra, but generally it's been about a half an hour of singing meditation, and that's what we recommend in the morning. But that said, if you have a really busy day, 5 minutes, 5 minutes here and there, thinking it to yourself, saying it out loud anytime, you'll figure out the practice that works best for you, but that vibration will be with you that whole month. 2 weeks after that, we will have a workshop with me, another student Elsa, and another student Maria. The three of us will be rotating, hosting a 1-hour workshop with you, both physically here at the Ikaya Center, like the teaching, and online, like the teaching. So the whole course can be taken both physically here at Ikaya Center and online. And that 1-hour workshop will be focused on singing together again, and then reviewing any questions or particular insights or sharings that you've had in those first 2 weeks with the mantra. And then you get another 2 weeks. Now, for those of you like Rick who would love to have more time, because of the calendar and having to coordinate with our other major course, Ikaya Aligned Crystal Healing, the first mantra is on the 25th of October, but the workshop is not for another I have to think, the workshop, no, we're going to have 2 workshops. That's how we're doing it. We're doing 2 workshops actually with the first mantra. So you're actually getting a full 6 weeks with the first mantra, and the second one doesn't come until December. So that's kind of a nice starting point for the course. Otherwise, when the course, both the teaching and workshop will be recorded just like we're doing tonight and posted at Ikaya Learning, which is our online course platform. So you can then watch or listen to the teaching and the meditations as often as you like. And we do recommend, especially if you don't have a lot of experience, that you do listen to the meditation and do it along with Ikaya. In terms of signing up and payment, we have all the information most sort of beautifully presented in one page at ikaya.org/mantra. And there are also links to Ikaya Learning, which is our online learning platform where you can sign up for the course. And somebody asked about price. To keep it simple, it's 11,800 Norwegian kroner if you pay in one payment, or 13,800 if you want to divide it up into 10 payments. Yes, how much that is in dollars has been changing every day, but it's roughly 10 kroner to the dollar right now, so that's about $1,180 to $1,380 for those outside of Norway. Anybody who's in the mantra course now or crystal healing, any other practical questions off the top of your heads? I think that's about it. It's yeah. I don't know how to say it in other words than it is an absolutely beautiful course. I was lucky enough to be able to assist in facilitating this last collection, Collection 3, which ended in September. And just so excited to have Ikaya teaching directly, and then we'll get to facilitate and assist you guys with the workshop. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Really fantastic teachings, beautiful mantras, and a whole year, a journey, and it's something, I don't know if Ikaya actually talked about it, but he designs the course as a journey. So each mantra and its teaching kind of moves into the next one, and the principles and the way they unfold in your life, it weaves together so beautifully. And I love the feedback I get when people outside the course in our lives, say family or friends, they start asking questions like, what is this course? What is it? Because it's doing something with you, and it keeps rolling, and it never stops. And so yeah, that's what you can look forward to. Do you guys have any other practical questions? Or IKYA, if anybody online had any practical questions? No? Okay. Then thank you so much for being here tonight. It was lovely to have you, and we hope to see you again in 2 weeks from tonight. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you. What time? Yeah, the Teachings are at 6 o'clock, and then the workshops are at 7. So the 2-hour teachings with Ikaya are at 6 o'clock on Tuesdays, and the 1-hour workshop is at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. Okay. Stick around if you have any other questions. There are people in the course. There are Ikaya therapists here. Anything that you need, feel free to ask.